I'm Emma Louise Coffey and you're welcome to The Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. There has been an increased emphasis on employee management and conditions on dairy farms, and to find out how to make dairy farms a better place to work, I caught up with dairy farmer Diarmuid Hegarty, farm employee Cormac Desmond, but first, Teagasc Paidi Kelly.
First thing we highlighted is how important an issue this is for Irish dairy farming now. Cow numbers have increased by over 400,000 over the last 5 or 6 years. There's over 4,000 employees on Irish dairy farms now, and we were talking about making farm an attractive place to work with both the view of attracting and retaining more people, but also for all those, I suppose, employees themselves. How do we get the best of those people on the farms? How do we set up the farms to, I suppose, help get the outcomes that we want to get? How do we, I suppose, help? How do we be the better employers, to better communicate and actually help to retain those people on farms? And I suppose some of the key points were, in terms of farming, I suppose, as a career and farms as a workplace, a lot of times we think, farming can't compete because maybe salaries are not competitive with other sectors. Actually there are a lot of good salaries available depending on your skill set. But on top of that, people look for, they want to enjoy the work that they're doing. They want to enjoy the person that they work for. They want to work on a nice place. They might want to work, on a job that's flexible with their maybe other things they have going on outside their lives, from, personal things to maybe another, job or a farm that they have or whatever. So it's really about thinking about these different ways we can compete for people, and, it's not just about salary.
And I suppose if we move on to you, Cormac, you're working on dairy farms and you have worked on dairy farms for a number of years. Can you talk us through, say, maybe what sort of farms you've worked on and some of your learnings on what really attracts you to different farms?
I suppose I've worked on a lot of spring calving farms, and I've also worked on autumn calving farms as well, but I suppose what really kind of brings me to farms is facilities. Facilities are a vital thing. If you see happy cows, you're going to be happier, and if you know that you're not going to be going in, doing poor jobs, every day, you're going in, you're doing a good day's work, and that will benefit you and benefit your learning as a young person anyway, I suppose flexibility in time as well, just it's important that you can get home at a certain time every evening. Fair enough, you'll have the evening things go wrong, or you might need to stay on, and that's understandable. It's farming, and that's fair enough, but once you know that most evenings you're going home at a certain time, it's important, and I suppose positivity, if the farmer brings positivity to you, and you know that the farmer is positive and not negative, it means a lot, and so it's important that he brings positivity to you, and there's positivity brought into the workplace. It's the same as any workplace, really. If you've a good positive farmer, you're going to adapt his habits because you're looking up to him in a way, and you'll adapt that positivity as well, and it's important. And I suppose the other thing, I suppose, was I suppose that's it, yeah. That's one.
And just to pick up, you mentioned facilities. Can you name maybe 2 or 3 key facilities that you'd look for on a farm?
I suppose parlour and good cow flow is a vital thing, I love milking cows, but sometimes you go into farmers' yards, and you want to spend all day milking cows, but you don't, because there's only 6 or 7 rows, and it's enjoyable parlour to milk, but other farms, they might have 11 or 12 rows, but them farmers then, they might have shared the milking out between 2 or 3 people, so you're not always milking cows, and it's grand, you get over it, and it's good, but I suppose that's one good thing, and handling facilities, and it's safe, and the cows are happy, because after all, employees who work on farms do want to see the animals happy, at the end of the day, just like the farmer, and that's important too, so.
And I suppose it's interesting you mentioned, where there's, higher number of rows of cows, if there are 2 or 3 people, it's not necessarily you have to do a job you have to do twice a day. You might just do it once a day and then do other tasks at for the rest of the day. And if we move on then to flexibility, is that in terms of rostering and time off, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's mainly it. I suppose, you're not always, I suppose, my situation at the moment, we've a farm at home, and I need to help out my father as he's pushing on a bit, and, to be accommodated for that, not to be milking every morning, and being able to do work elsewhere, it's great, and it just keeps me happy, and it keeps the farmer happy, and it keeps the other people working on the farm happy, some of there's 2 other people employed in the farm I work on, and they don't want to be there every day, but you know, they want to be there all the same, you know, and it's great, like, to have that flexibility to work around, you know, and we all know when we're working, and if we need to swap, we can swap with each other without having to go through the farmer himself, like, and he's happy out. I remember one weekend that the people who were supposed to milk, they didn't milk, but the cows were still milked. We were all swapped, and everyone was happy, you know, and it was great. Like, it was a great thing to be able to do, like, you know.
Yeah, it's great to have a team, like, you can rely on other people to slot in.
Absolutely.
And you know, another point on that is that, you know, I suppose with dairying, there's an intensive period in the morning and the afternoon, but there is a few hours in the middle of the day, you know, which is very conducive to doing other things, you know, where necessary. And I suppose finally, just on that, in terms of a roster, what's your favourable, say, days on, days off, based on your experience?
Well, I suppose, you know, well, like, you don't mind doing a weekend, you know, whenever it has to be done, you know, but, like, say if you have something on, you know, that you have people to swap it, so, like, you know, like, you don't mind the set period, like, because everyone else is doing it, like, so you don't mind doing it, like, be it 12 on, 2 off, or 11 on, 3 off, or whatever way the farm works, you know, like, you're not, like, me especially, I'm not going to looking to come in and look for the whole world to revolve around me, you know, but, like, if it's easy to get time off, you know, in a weekend, you know, it's grand in, you know, but that roster is vital, plays a vital role in that, like, you know.
I suppose just planning your life around,
yeah,
you know, when you know you're on and off.
You know,
yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah. So if we move on then, Diarmuid, so our employee here is telling us that he'd like good facilities, a flexible workplace, and he wants a farmer who's positive. So, you know, bringing a bit of positivity to the work environment. From the employer's perspective, so I suppose firstly, if we take a step back, you know, talk through your system. What are you doing?
We're milking 200 cows at the moment, the home block. I suppose that's grown over the last few years from 140, where we shared a labour unit with another farmer who I knew well, and we interacted well. Whereas we wanted to, I suppose we had the workload, and I suppose we had the farm that we could afford a labour unit, so we took that step, and we're happy we took that step. You know, we all have our own lives, and, you know, young family. It gives you that freedom and flexibility. So, and that was a conscious decision. You know, when we started day one, this was the target, and we've reached that target.
And in terms of this sharing, we might just look at that for a minute. How did that work practically?
Practically, it could be the Monday, Tuesday with me, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with Connor, and Saturday with me again. So it kind of, there was a bit of ebbing and flowing, I suppose, because the workload was there. But then it could be holidays. It suited our holidays because they could be 2 weeks in one farm and a week in another farm or weekend. So it kind of, I suppose, there wasn't as much structure there, but it satisfied our needs at the time. And it was okay with the Jason was one guy, and Shamek was another guy. You know, they were happy with it as well. You know, it worked for them as well. They were happy with the variety. I suppose that was a bonus in a sense, working two farms, because it wasn't the same mundane thing. There was a bit of variety which suited them as well.
Yeah, different people, different systems and all the rest. And then you moved into employing somebody full-time. And I suppose back to our employee, Cormac, he mentioned facilities, flexibility and working with a positive farmer were the key things for him. You as an employer, say what is important for you when you're looking for a staff member?
Someone that reliability, you know, we look, that's in the space, you know, it's there's work there every day that you can dependability. You know, you can rely on someone that's going to be there. Then, like, a positive attitude, that they're in good form every morning. It isn't, you know, it is, how are you? How was your weekend? It was good. Do you know, it was small things like that. They're in good form. It's not a big, you know, they're not unburdening some other issue or problem to, you know what I mean? They're happy with facing work in the morning, like, you know, and then you can build from that. But I think you have to have those to start with, you know, and depending on the capability and the responsibility level of the person, then you kind of have to adapt to that.
And ideally, what sort of skill level would you like to see somebody at coming onto your farm?
Well, like, for argument's sake, the likes of Cormac here, he's the capabilities to manage a farm himself, you know, so I think he'd be I won't say overqualified, but he probably has further ambitions. So you kind of have to cut your cloth in the sense that, look, you want an assistant. Do you know, you're going to be there, you're the oversight, but you want an assistant who, when you're not there, has the knowledge or has been trained up to day-to-day oversight. So that, look, you have to be clear on what you want from day one, I suppose, because there's no point promising and committing to something and painting a picture that may be over-ambitious on your part.
And then I guess looking at your farm, you mentioned 200 cows.
Yeah.
So has that evolved or has it always been at that number?
Well, that has probably evolved since in the last 5 or 6 years from 140. Look, maybe 15, 20 years ago it was 100 and 140 and we're at 200 now.
And in terms of that evolution, how has the farm changed to support 200 cows?
We've taken on more land, I suppose. We've dropped beef and I suppose we changed cow type and put the facilities in place to cater for that.
And what type of facilities?
Well, there's 240 cubital spaces, 26 unipal or underpass was put in, roadway, more roadways to access outline blocks, and I suppose better fencing.
And was that a really important decision, putting the, I suppose, financial, like the capital into the facilities?
It was, but it was a means to an end. The end was that we wanted to build a business that would allow you a bit of flexibility, that you're not tied, that you have a bit of freedom, because you had the scale and you had the facilities to afford help.
And in terms of an employer, at what point did you take on the shared labour?
We took on the shared labour when when we got married, and when there was young children, just because, look, there was no point in being just head down, arse up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you had to kind of give yourself the space to progress again. Like, absolutely.
And I suppose, at that point, you hadn't an employee on the farm, and you had to transition to somebody being there 3 days a week. How did you develop skills to deal with a person and manage a person, day to day?
I think it was I suppose poorly at the start. We had to grow into it, but we learned. That's the way we learned, I suppose, and we got better at it. And it's back to listening to the person and what they wanted, and what were their needs, and like, not everyone who comes onto a farm is going to be a successful employee. And, they might start with that, but, you have to go with your gut. If something's working, you work with it. But if it's not, you kind of have to start again. And that's life. Like, you have to make those calls.
And I suppose a lot of people say it might just be a small thing like personality clash, and sometimes straight away, and sometimes it takes a few weeks or months for that to kind of manifest itself. And just following on, had you any formal training, Diarmuid, in terms of making your farm a better place to work or being a more favourable employer? We've
tried to upskill ourselves. Look, we did the lean farming program there during the summer there with Dairy Gold, and to be fair, we have a lot to do. We have the theory, we must put a bit more of it in practice. We're currently just on we've one more day left of 4 days completing a farm farm management and labour course days with Nolik Heffernan and Martina Gormley. So like, you just take things on, and even look, I suppose technology has evolved. You keep your ears open. Look, whiteboards. Look, we all know them from school and stuff like that, but like, they've only come onto farms maybe in the last 5 or 10 years. They were always there. It's just adapting technology and being open to it, I suppose. So like, it's much informal as formal training, but just trying to make life easier for yourself and for your employee.
And I suppose if we come back to you, Cormac, based on what Diarmuid has said, he's looking for somebody who's reliable, dependable. There's a lot of people your age and they're heading out into the dairy industry, looking for the best opportunity for them. What do you think are the most important things that young people should look out for when they're, looking at an opportunity or a job advertisement? What should they be looking for?
I suppose, like, when you go into jobs, I suppose you just have to kind of, say, for argument's sake, play cool for, like, you have to suss out the job first. Don't go into the job that you have doubts about, like, but like, but like, if you can go in, like, and just listen to the farmer, like, and just put a bit of trust in them, like, because at the end of the day, like, farming is a progressive thing, like, you know, and farmers do want to be better, like, you know, and like they do, like, you can just trust them that they want to teach you to improve, like, and you know, like, they want you to improve for their farm as well as your own skills, you know. And so I suppose that bit of trust is a good thing as a young person going into farmers, you know, and just, like, you know, realize that they got from somewhere to where they are now, you know, and just see that path, like, and, you know, like, and I suppose another thing is, like, where do you, like, it's hard to see this, like, but, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, you know, if you can adapt yourself around, look, I want to be something like that farmer or something, like, you know, and, you know, can I get in a farm that can teach me that to get to that place? I suppose, like, that's kind of what I would be looking for, you know.
And have you ever completed any training, or, you know, was there any emphasis on, say, furthering your education while working on dairy farms?
Well, I suppose farmers sent me to discussion group meetings, you know, they sent me to, say, workshops. Like, I remember last Friday there now, I was sent to a workshop in Shannock, you know, and I learned a thing or two there, like, you know, and I'll bring that back home and I'll use it on the farm I work on and the farm I at home, like, you know, and just things like that, you know. There was probably a couple of more, like, say, the cell check thing there that was running there, was it 2 years ago, you know. Like, I was sent to one of them, you know, and picked up a thing or two, like, you know. So, like, all the time, like, it's nice to be sent to them things, like, you know, and I suppose you be upskilling all the time in that sense, like, you know, and I suppose along with your college education and things like that, you know.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, the one or two things that you might pick up on the, like, say, Shinnock Open Day can have huge implications for the farm business. I know we spoke to Don Crowley recently, and he said just tweaking your dry off practices can lead to thousands of additional profit in the subsequent lactation. So it's, you know, all those little things. I suppose, Paidi, just to wrap up then, is there anything that the lads have forgot to mention from your perspective, you know, looking at the workplace?
No, I think they covered a lot, Emily. It's great to get the employer's perspective and then look at it from the employee's point of view as well. And I think that's what's difficult. Actually, it's difficult as an employer when you're so familiar with your own farm to actually step back and look at it and think, well, what is this like for someone else to look on? To work on. And, you know, that's probably the key factor in getting it right is, you know, taking the knack out of farms. You know, we have to take the knack. Farms need to be straightforward to run, because if they're straightforward to run, then they're easier for people to do jobs well. So we need to actually, you know, this crack of that there's a knack to doing different jobs. Jobs should be straightforward to do. And I think trying to work towards, you know, dairy farms being more professional places to work, you know, simple guidelines to help people operate milk and parlours, all these different things can make a big difference. And I think it's important to say there's a lot of dairy farmers doing it really well, a lot of, you know, really good farms that are a great place to work, farmers that really care about their employees, and we just have to keep kind of, I suppose, lifting the standard nationally.
Thanks very much, guys. That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to Paidi Kelly, Cormac Desmond and Diarmuid Hegarty for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. And for more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Emma Louise Coffey, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.